go.
Welcome in, everybody. Time for another episode of SEC State of Mind. I am Taylor Davis, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Campbell. Happy Halloween week, party people. Some spooky things happening around the SEC. And we're, of course, going to cover all of it. Some big news, but given this football season and how it's gone, it's just another day. You know what I mean? So we're obviously going to talk the big news, LSU parting ways with Brian Kelly, the ripple effect that is sure to have on a variety of coaching searches that are underway. And of course, we'll get you ready for all of the Week 10 action ahead in the SEC. J. Cam, let's touch base a little bit. Obviously, Auburn able to get their first SEC victory this past weekend in Fayetteville. You were down there. I also saw that there was a good eating spot at some point. How's the season been for you so far? Aside from, Auburn's difficult season, life on the road in these SEC towns, it really is special to get to experience all the different cultures.
Oh, yeah, I definitely had a great time in Arkansas. Got a chance to catch up with some old friends. Also got a chance to eat at one of the best barbecue spots that you can find.
Wow.
At Wright's Barbecue. But I say this, like Brett Eddins, who him and Ronnie co-host our sideline, report. So Brett had it this week, and Brett's brother played for Arkansas. So he actually played basketball back in the day for Nolan Richardson when Arkansas was there. So he took us to this barbecue spot, and all of a sudden just brought out mac and cheese, green beans, tater salad, baked beans with brisket in it. You had ribs over here. You had burnt ends over here. You had turkey meat over his side. You had pulled pork on this side. Just a lot. And I was just like, bro, I've been on a diet for the last month and a half to 2 months, and I've been doing really well. And you are tempting me right now with all of this food. But you know what? No one said I couldn't have it one time. So
yeah,
I went all in.
As you should.
Paid for it, but it was well worth it. And then they brought out banana pudding.
Forget about it.
Diet
who?
Yeah, diet who. So I ate half of it. So you're proud of me. I only ate half.
Moderation.
Yeah, moderation. But Taylor, let's talk about you though.
Oh dear.
I look at your Instagram page this morning.
At Taylor Beth Davis.
I see lasagna being cooked on the stove with a little piece of croissant. I'm just like, okay. It's cold in Nashville. We got hot lasagna with some croissants going on. But that was a big pot of lasagna. Who are you cooking for?
It's a lasagna soup. It's not lasagna. It's like a broth-based soup, but you break up the lasagna noodles and have ground meat and tomatoes in it and stuff. Okay. It is delicious. And my friend group is actually doing a little Halloween thing, so I'm bringing it to that. So I had some last night, but then my friends will be getting majority of it. Yeah. Unfortunately, we still ain't cooking for a man, if that's what you were asking. So
no. I was putting it out for all my guys that watch the show and, was trying to shoot their shot. I was just trying to let them know, like, no, Taylor's still available.
And she can cook. So there's that.
You're a Southern girl though, so you're supposed to know how to cook. You know.
All the good things. We also get to cook on this podcast, talking all of the crazy news around the SEC. And boy, is there plenty to debate and discuss. And this will surprise no one. I have lots of opinions, so I'm excited to get into it. But we're going to start the way we always do with our weekly awards around here, SEC Standout and SEC Siren. We will start with the positive like we do and give you an SEC standout from this past week's action. Week 9 was, again, a lot of conference matchups. We're at the point of season where you want to be in the postseason. You got to knock out the people in your conference to get there, because the SEC, there is still parity. So we're going to start with the SEC standout. I'm going a little unconventional with this one. It's not game related. I'm lagging a little bit. Hopefully, there we go. I am giving my SEC standout to the group of Alabama football players that put on a worship night Sunday night at Bryant-Denny Stadium, including Ty Simpson and Jeremy Bernard, who were both up on stage. I literally have chills talking about it. These two guys are the faces of one of the best programs in the nation, arguably will be, potentially in an SEC championship, a national championship conversation. They have all eyes on them right now playing ball at the highest level, and they're utilizing their platform to try and outreach people and be public about their faith. And I am just so inspired seeing things like that. They were both helping lead worship with the band. They both gave their testimonies up on stage, just public, bold declarations of their faith, given the platform that they have through their sport. And I just commend the young men for taking the time and effort to put on something like that, and was really, truly inspired by them taking the initiative to do that. It was really incredible to see.
No, that is awesome, especially in the day and time that we're living in right now, right? Faith is so important.
Yeah.
And sometimes these kids can don't realize how people are looking up to them,
Totally.
even grown adults, because they see them as players, but when they see their faith and then they look at the person, they say, oh, now it makes sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
his character lines up with who he is as a person and what he stands for. So, you know, much appreciated for that. You asked me about Auburn earlier, and it actually leads me into my SEC standout.
Okay.
I was at the game this weekend, called the game. Like I said, Auburn jumps up 10-0. Then all of a sudden, Arkansas come crawling back and take the lead and go at 21-10 at the half. And
Jeez.
then Auburn has usually been a team that's kind of went away in the second half. This
Yeah.
week, they showed up in the second half.
Mhm.
And they showed a lot of resilience in getting that win in Arkansas, which is not an easy team to beat. So, because just the way they've been playing, they've been putting up a lot of numbers offensively.
Yeah.
Defensively, we know they've been struggling, but offensively, they number one in the SEC. But
Yeah.
when you think about that, my SEC standout goes to two people really on
Okay.
the same team. McPherson. McPherson is a guy that was 6 for 6 on field goals. If people don't know his story, and you talk about faith, right? People notice in the Missouri game, even when he missed kicks, he raised his hands to the sky still. And like he said, it's not about when things are going great that you praise God, but also when things aren't going well, right?
Yeah.
And he had a tough week against Missouri. He missed 2 key field goals that kind of could have helped us win the ball game. He bounced back this week. He goes 6 for 6 on field goals. Like, this guy, people didn't even know he would be kicking this year
I know.
because of his health concerns. Like, one move left to the right, and it could be very bad for him. And the
Yeah.
fact that he's on the football field still kicking with the risk shows you his testimony. Number
Yeah.
2, Xavier Atkins. This guy
Let's
is
talk
a
about it.
machine. This guy
He's
has to
nuts.
be one of the top 2-3 people for the Buckets Award already.
I
If he's not
agree.
the finalist for the top 3 for Buckets, I don't know what people are watching. Like, 13 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, and 1 forced fumble, all in one game.
And he's been
Like,
doing it all season.
during the whole season. So he's the second linebacker since 2018, I believe, Nick Cole, that has had over like 14 some tackles for a loss within like a 3-game span. Like, the guy is playing out of
Crazy.
his mind.
Agreed.
And some people, like, I haven't seen a linebacker play like this fast and all over in a long, long time in that uniform.
I agree. And wow, what a vote of confidence coming from someone like yourself who has seen a lot of good ball at Auburn and a lot of talented players specifically on that side. So I totally agree with you. And yeah, the Evan McPherson story is truly one of perseverance and resilience. I mean, the guy had his colon removed. He got down to 110 pounds. Like, they didn't know if he would survive, let alone be back on a football field. So incredibly earned. And I totally agree with you. Where there's good, there's bad. And we're here to talk about that too. So let's talk SEC Siren, getting the alarm a little bit on these elements. And mine is maybe a little bit surprising, but I think very, very relevant now through the end of season. My SEC Siren is on Texas A&M. And Texas A&M, I think, is one of the most elite teams in the country. They are repeatedly showing you every week they can find different ways to win. They can do it through the air. They can do it on the ground. Their defense is physical and all over the place. They've got an edge to them. They went into Death Valley and made it their home. That is unheard of. But you're at the point of season where you could end up being your own worst enemy. And these penalties still not being cleaned up in week 9 is ridiculous. You are getting in your own way. You've been fortunate enough to be able to overcome it because of your talent, but we are at the back end of season, and the SEC slate is just going to get a little weird. It does every year. You are sitting in a situation where somebody could end up capitalizing on your mistakes. Texas A&M, you are that guy right now. You are that team. Don't be the reason that you don't reach everything you're capable of. They have got to get the penalties under control.
Well, they got a big game this week against Missouri. You know, you're
Mhm.
thinking about a team that just came off a tough loss in Vanderbilt, and lost the quarterback in Bo Bueller, but the young freshman didn't look bad. Like the kid came in a tough situation and
And played well.
played well. So that game being at home this week is not an easy task. Missouri, I mean, A&M knew that this was going to be their stretch, right? So
Yeah.
Auburn, Vanderbilt, and now you have another road game into Missouri after starting first 6 games at home. So they knew that they were going to have to overcome. And so far, they've done well. They beat
Yeah.
LSU. My bad, I said Missouri. LSU, they beat LSU. But now we'll see what happened this week. My SEC siren is Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oklahoma has now lost to Texas, and they lost to Ole Miss.
Yep.
And a time that they lost to Texas, Material's coming off the injury, but we're 3 weeks away from the injury now. And he
Yeah.
even came out and said that everything is fine with my thumb. There's no issues whatsoever. We're just not playing as good as we can offensively. And Brent Venables is 6-8 versus ranked teams. 6-8. That will start making a lot of noise at Oklahoma. That's
Yep.
a proud program. That's a program that wants to win championships. It's not that we're saying we're calling for the job, nothing like that. We don't do that on this show. We're just saying, like, in order to get to the playoffs and to compete to be in the championship running, you got to win that game that you lost at home against Ole Miss because your back was against the wall.
Yeah.
And now you got a Tennessee team coming in town, so you got to win this week. Like,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to remain in playoff hunt. So I'm sounding the siren on Oklahoma. You got to win this week if you want to have any chance of getting in the playoffs.
Let's go ahead and move on to week 10 previews, get you set and ready for some of these SEC matchups, get you our odds and lines and everything from our friends over at FanDuel. As always, our show is presented by them, and we are so appreciative. The world's outdoor large cocktail party, whatever the frick, they apparently can't call it that anymore, but we all know that that's what it really is. Georgia, Florida, happening down in Jacksonville, a weird rivalry every year. But this one also kind of odd considering what all Florida has been through. Jay, what do you have for this one?
So you're talking about Georgia and Florida both coming off a bye week, right? So, it used to be called the largest cocktail. Now it's called something else, right? Down in Jacksonville. I always wonder will this game ever go on campus, back and
I
forth.
don't think so.
But I think it generates too much money. It generates too much, notoriety. But I'm telling you, this game is going to be a lot closer than people think. Georgia,
I agree.
FanDuel had them as 7.5 favorites, over under 50.5. I just think everybody better watch out this week for Florida. Like, you coming off a win against Mississippi State, you get a bye week. Billy Napier got fired. Some of the players still love him and want to go out and still represent. And these guys are still playing for jobs, right? Like,
Mhm.
whoever comes in is going to watch the film and say, I want to keep him. I want to keep him. I want to let him go. So what you put on tape is updates
Matters.
the resume right now.
Yeah.
So these guys, it's still a rivalry game. So be careful in this matchup. I still like Georgia to win, but a lot closer.
How would Florida pull it off? What would it come down to?
Well, their defense been playing outstanding. It'll be their
Yeah.
defense getting turnovers, and now with someone that's calling the plays offensively, and Georgia hadn't had time to study the new play caller. That's the
Yeah.
thing about it. The new play caller has 2 weeks, and he has nothing to lose, so he can dial up everything that he wants to dial up. And see, that what makes this game dangerous is because Florida has nothing to lose. That staff has nothing to lose, and you're dealing with a new play caller that you haven't seen all season.
I agree with you, man. I think this one could sneak up on Georgia. Like, how many times do you see it after, the season has gone poorly? There's been drama surrounding your program. Now you've got an interim head coach, and then you go out and win. You go out and pull a rabbit out of a hat because to your point, you have nothing to lose. You play so much freer because that pressure is kind of no one's expecting you to do this. So you go do it. Happened a couple weeks ago. UAB fired Trent Dilfer. UAB was having a terrible season. They go and upset Memphis, who is a top 25 team in the country under an interim head coach. Like sometimes this is just how the pendulum swings. And so Georgia absolutely, if it were anyone other than Kirby, like Kirby just has this way of the mental element of the game that Georgia can't be snuck up on mentally, but Florida very well could have that day. So I'm very intrigued by this one. A little less intriguing, but in the SEC, they could all be crazy. We've got South Carolina, Ole Miss. Obviously, Ole Miss coming off that huge win over Oklahoma, and South Carolina, I imagine, feeling so depleted and just discouraged. They had Alabama on the ropes, man. They had exactly what we said last week, that those games that tend to sneak up on Kalen DeBoer and this team in Columbia against the South Carolina team that hadn't been able to put it together. Untimely turnovers. They had a pick six early, but then Lenora Sellers fumbles in the red zone. And look, he has really taken much better care of the ball this year. Turnovers were kind of an issue last year. He's only had 3. So it really was just, and the ball did get punched. So, like, honestly, you can't really fault him for it, but just super deflating if you are a South Carolina fan. I mean, their students were like down at the bottom, ready to storm the field. Give credit to great coaching by Alabama, the like trick play and end up in the end zone. And then Jeremy Bernard's just a freak. So that South Carolina is just clamoring to finally get one, but Ole Miss has their sights set on the playoff, and I feel pretty confident that they will get past South Carolina. FanDuel feels confident about it too. Ole Miss is favored by 12.5 points right now with the over-under 54.5. So I think obviously it goes without saying, protecting the ball if you're South Carolina and just trying to kind of give your offense the best chance of getting into a rhythm. I will say the offensive line played better. That has really been an issue for them this season. In that same vein, they still allowed 2 sacks and 6 tackles for loss, but Lenora Sellers had a much cleaner pocket. He wasn't running for his life the entire time. You're going to have to do that again. They also are showing some more offensive weapons that we haven't, we've kind of wondered, is Lenora Sellers your entire offense? Like, that can't be the case. Nick Harbor had a 54-yard touchdown. Lenore's little brother, I'm sure he hates that that's how everyone defines him, but it's true. Jaden Sellers is coming along as well, seeing him get targeted a little bit more. I think that obviously Ole Miss feels much better about the rhythm that they've established and really a lot of talent. I think if you're South Carolina's defensive line, it goes without saying, you got to try and rattle Trinidad Chambliss. The only time his inexperience showed was the end of the Georgia game when they ramped up the pressure and they were blitzing him all over. That was really the only time you saw this kid get rattled. So I think you freaking go ham if you are this South Carolina defense. You try and draw up all kinds of pressure, try and get after him. Defensive back Peyton Williams had 6 solo tackles and 2 pass breakups against Ty Simpson, who's a very methodical, disciplined quarterback. So you've got guys that can kind of make things a little weird for them, but Ole Miss is putting up 37 points per game. They have the second passing offense in the SEC, so I think they can really just dice you on the back end. One thing that I think is interesting, though, and Ole Miss fans, I would challenge you a little bit. This game is not sold out. It is 4 days until then. You have a night game in Oxford, which you have publicly complained about not getting night games in Oxford. They give you one. You very well are a playoff team. Your head coach is in conversations for multiple other programs, and you can't even sell out the stadium and go support them against an SEC team. You better get there. You better figure out a way to fill that stadium, because if you think you don't matter as a fan base, you're in the wrong conference.
Well, the biggest problem is you're still in the playoff hunt, and you need to continue to give these kids juice.
Yep.
And this is Halloween week, and spooky things happen on Halloween weekend with
Mhm.
games, and you see a lot of different upsets. And this is a game where South Carolina has nothing to lose.
Yep.
They just played a top 5 team, took them down to the wire. Like I said, had that fun, but South Carolina's got to be feeling like horrible because there's 2 years in a row they've had Alabama and it came down to a turnover or something right at
Ugh,
the end.
brutal.
So, but Shane Beamer, he's a guy that's gonna get his guys ready to play. He'll get them
Mhm.
up again. And this has become the reality. This has become the SEC. Like every week, you can get beat by anybody. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like you cannot sleep on any opponent in this conference,
Yeah.
period. Like Mississippi State should have beat Texas this week. You're up 17 and you get the fourth down roughing the passer.
Yes.
You got to be
Brutal.
smarter than that. Like if you don't get that, you win the game.
Yeah.
So these games gonna come down every week to you getting everyone's best. And right
Yeah.
now, Ole Miss, you have the pressure because you have to win.
Yes.
South Carolina doesn't necessarily have to win,
You're right.
but they gonna come in there and they gonna play loose, and they feel like they found something last week again in their game against Alabama, and they're still trying to play to get in the bowl game.
Yeah.
Like they want those extra practices in December, especially if Lenore's decide to go pro. You want to
Yeah.
get your quarterback some reps in early bowl period practice. So you want to get to that bowl game. So I like Ole Miss to win this game, but it will be a dogfight. It will
Yeah.
be a dogfight. You saw him get in a dogfight a couple weeks ago against Washington State at home.
Mhm.
Like you said,
Again, your home field advantage has to be better. Like, there wasn't a fan base at that game either.
yeah. So you got to be careful. Like you got to continue to support these guys. You can't say, "Oh, that's a win." No, you don't know that in
No.
this conference.
Not it's certainly not an SEC competition. All right, we got a few more minutes here, 2 more to get through real quickly. Vanderbilt, Texas. What you got, Jay?
Vanderbilt, Texas. I got Vandy is what 2.5. Oh, they moved it.
What?
Texas is now 1.5 favored
When did that happen?
and over under 44.5. Wow, that changed in the last 2 hours. It was.
Wait, and Arch Manning is not playing.
Yeah, it was. So obviously, I think they feel like this game is in Texas. They give that home field advantage. And Vanderbilt, they're a lot tougher team at home than they are on the road, but they're still a dangerous football team. Caldwell is the kid that came in. He's from Auburn, played in overtime for Texas last week. So, man, this is a tough one. Like,
That is so bizarre.
Texas has to win this game. Vanderbilt has to win this game.
Yeah.
Man,
I
this is gonna be a defensive battle. I'm gonna have to lean towards Texas at home in a close one.
I'm sticking with Vandy. I feel, and I just looked it up because I was like, how did that change? But it is, they are favoring Texas. And given the quarterback situation, I'm doubly confused by that. But I am still a believer in Vanderbilt because this past weekend, they did not win because of Diego Pavia. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but their defense, holy cow, they were all over the place. And their run game has been efficient. They've got so many targets that play well when the pressure is on. Like, I just think Vanderbilt is a complete team. But, this one could be weird. Who the heck knows?
Right.
Vanderbilt seems to know something we don't.
Oh, you're right. Diego Pavia, real quick. Diego Pavia hasn't thrown for more than 200 yards in the big games, and they
Right.
still win. So this is
Right.
totally a team. Now he gets a lot of the headlines, but this is a team.
They're not just winning because of him.
Right.
So I'm really a believer in them right now. All right. Lastly, we've got Oklahoma, Tennessee. Our friends at FanDuel have, I believe, unless it changed, Tennessee is 3.5-point favorites over Oklahoma. Like we said, Oklahoma coming off the loss against Ole Miss. And what I thought was really interesting about that game, Jay, is that Oklahoma's defense got exposed a good bit. Trinidad Chambliss put up nearly 400 yards of total offense. And this is, they hang their hat on being one of the best and most physical defenses in the country. They were chirping to Lane Kiffin. He gave him crap after the game that y'all said we wouldn't score on you, whatever. But that really was interesting to me. Obviously, the stories around John Mateer continue as he's trying to get healthy, but he hasn't been as effective since that injury. He was 17 of 31 for 223 yards and 1 touchdown. But his completion rate has dropped. His yards per pass have dropped. In that same vein, Tennessee has had secondary issues. Guys have been out of gaps. There have been a little bit of miscommunication on the back end. So if John Mateer wants a get-right game in the passing attack, it could be against the Tennessee secondary. But I believe in Tennessee's offense. Joey Aguilar threw 3 touchdown passes against Kentucky this past weekend. He had no interceptions. Their defense allowed Kentucky to move well, and Kentucky and offense have not been synonymous this year. So I think that was interesting. You'll have to clean up allowing some of those big plays, because if John Mateer wants to get back in rhythm, he could do it against this secondary. But I think that I've said this so many times this year, but it really feels like a prominent storyline. The lines of scrimmage are going to be super impactful in this game. I think who wins the battle up front ultimately wins the game. And there have been some issues for Oklahoma up front, and Tennessee's pass rush has been pretty effective. So if Oklahoma's offensive line cannot protect John Mateer, then Tennessee's issues in the secondary don't freaking matter, because he's not going to have time to let the explosive plays develop anyway. So I think the line of scrimmage determined this one, and I think that Tennessee still has the offensive firepower to put up more points.
Have you heard that thing called a book?
What?
A book. So what has happened to John Mateer is this is his first year in the SEC. His first year with his offensive coordinator being in the SEC. And
Right.
now they played enough games that everyone now in the SEC have a book on.
Yeah.
So now they're studying their book, and
Mhm.
they see the things that John Mateer does well. They see the things that frustrates him.
Yeah.
And now they are starting to attack those things. And now he has to like change some things within his play, but also his coordinator has got to change some concepts and some things that he's doing within his play.
Yeah.
With his game calling, because people have they've caught on to your tendencies. So this is a game that's going to be very close again. I think Oklahoma traveling to Tennessee, I just don't think Oklahoma offense can keep up with Tennessee's offense in this game. So I think Tennessee wins this football game. But like you said, the game will be won in the trenches. But Oklahoma's got to change up some things on offense if they want to continue to excel, because now people have gotten a hook on what you're doing.
You're right. And that was your SEC Sirens. So it is interesting what continues to I mean, at this point, no one's going to have a job by the end of this year. Like literally Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer. At times after week 1, everybody was calling for Kalen to get fired. So like literally everyone is going to be out of a job.
Lose to Auburn this year. Who knows?
Who the heck knows? Real quickly, this did make me think, who is your Heisman front runner right now? Still plenty of time to change, but who's got the lead?
Well, it's always going to be a quarterback, right? They might well just change the quarterback award.
Yeah.
Like it used to be back in the day, you can get a running back or somebody, but it's always quarterback award. Oh man, right now I would probably have to go with Ty Simpson, just because he's been so consistent week in, week out. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and I like Marcel Reed. He's doing some great things. He's turned the ball over, but he's a really good dual threat quarterback. I think both of those guys may end up in New York by the end of the year. Salin from Ohio State could end up in New York. But to me, I would probably say Ty Simpson at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. I think Fernando Mendoza is pretty high on the list as well. So plenty of good football ahead. Week 10 is going to be a fun one. There's some other SEC matchups. We just have to prioritize the big ones a little bit. So we will come on back next week to break down all of the Week 10 action. As always, you can catch Jason on the Auburn Sports Radio Network on the call this weekend for Kentucky at Auburn. I will be on the call for Georgia Tech. Haynes King is also hoping to be in that Heisman conversation. He's put up a pretty good resume so far. I'll be seeing number 8 Georgia Tech at NC State this weekend. We will be 7 o'clock or 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2. So that's where you can find us. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Leave us a comment. LSU and Florida fans, seriously, I want to know who you want. How would you feel about a Dabo hire? Like, interact with us a little bit, people, so we can talk about y'all's feelings and thoughts on these matters. But we will be back next Tuesday to break down all the action. Until then, peace.
Peace.